Hi friends, today is going to be our feather painting class day, and I think you're really going to enjoy the spontaneity and the freedom of painting feathers. Whenever I stumble upon a feather, to me it's my omen that I'm on the right path. So I hope that you find a feather today and that you enjoy painting with me today. We're going to start with some morning meditations or evening, whatever time zone you're on. So today I have the B pencil, the 4B, and the 6B. So let's write a little stream of conscious poetry to begin. If you want to learn to tear the watercolor paper, please reference the Poppy Painting class number 1, where I teach you how to create the beautiful torn edge and that little beauty and imperfection. So let's begin. I love this unique shape here, and I'm thinking of a horizontal feather. So I'm going to write in meditation. I find stillness and infinite love. All right. And then I'm also going to go ahead and sign this watercolor, because when it is wet, as we have learned, it's more difficult to sign. And of course, this was painted in Savannah. Voila. And then here, I'm going to write in beauty, in nature, my cathedral. All right, go ahead and sign here. Your signature really becomes part of the composition, which is why I'm actually signing now. And since I know that with the feathers I want it to be in pencil, so that makes sense. And then of course Savannah. And if you want to, you can also write on the back the year, the month if you would like. Totally up to you. Artist choice. And I'm gonna go ahead. All right, and this will be the larger piece that we're going to work with. And you can work with whatever size of watercolor paper you have. You know, it's so important for us to be resourceful, be grateful, and focus on what we have and what's available to us. For this piece here, I know that I'm going to do like a prism. It's going to be about divine light. So I'm going to write divinity. Always divinity. Like love, hope, and faith. And I think we need a little bit of infinite possibilities today. We have infinite possibilities every day. So let's just put a little reminder. Infinite possibilities. All right. And love and light, because we all need love and light too. And I think just for spontaneity and fun, I'm going to actually sign this with the watercolor brush, and I'm going to go ahead and date here. All right, our morning meditations or evening. All right, so let's begin painting. We're going to gather and like load our brush, just load it, and then we're going to wet the entire paper. And I'm starting with this piece first because I did want to put or paint a little rainbow prism, very much like what you see when the light passes through in nature. When light passes through matter, it's the spiritual of the language, or the language of the spiritual. So when light passes through matter, it's the language of the spiritual. And then also you have prisms where, of course, you get these beautiful rainbow glows. So for my prism, I'm going to begin with a bit of blue, bluish purple. And again, I didn't mean to pick up some of, the more red pigment, but I love it. We always work with magic and spontaneity. A little bit of yellow. Let's go ahead and grab some alizarin crimson. And just a hint of green. Then I am going to pick up some of this purple. Ooh la la. So if you've taken a class with me before or watched the poppy painting class, you'll note that I always wet my paints first, and you want them to just marinate in that water for 5 to 10 minutes so you get these deep, deep pigments. Let's go ahead and pick up some more yellow. And then I'm just going to, with water, we need some blue. And a little more purple. So I'm grabbing from this palette as well. I love when you just touch the paper and how it just will create these beautiful striations organically. So right now, let's go ahead and let this dry, and we'll begin our other feathers. So for this feather, I'm going to use this little small rectangular-ish square brush, and we're going to pick up some of the Payne's Gray, which is this paint here, and it doesn't matter what brand you have, but yeah, the grays, it's just a very beautiful gray. And at the tip of the feather, it's going to be darker. And now I'm just grabbing water with my brush. And see how when you have darker pigment on one side, it already looks like a feather. So this time I just have water, and I'm going to paint the other side of our feather. And using a little brush, a little round brush, just going to get water and just create some little tufts, some sweet little tufts. And that's just using water. Just let it work its magic. And you know what we do. Do a little bit of Jackson Pollock cathartic watercolor splatters. All right, so now I'm going back into that deep hue, and I'm going to create that darker hue at the top. And then I'm going to have here, voila, in one single brush stroke. So now I'm just going to grab some water and do a little bit of sideways brush work where you're just using the very point of the brush, and just get some of those little feather-like strokes in there. And then just with water, you're going to blend it out just a little bit, not touching too much because it will bleed. And I did want to mention that you can actually pick up some of this pigment if you find that your happy accident, you actually want to lessen it. So let me grab some paper towel and show you how to do that. All right, perfect. So if you want to ever pick up paint, you can do it delicately like this and see how it just soaks up the hues. Or you can be more aggressive and go in and pick up pigment that way as well. So we are going to let this dry and work on our third feather. for this feather, I'm going to grab this brush. It's a 5 1/8 inch wash brush. I love square brushes. They are definitely my favorite. And I'm just going to put a little bit of water just around the area where I envision my feather to have a little bit of like plumy, downy softness. And I'm just going to splatter a little bit. And just taking water, I'm going to scrub into it and just let some organic magic happen. All right, and while that dries, we are going to actually utilize a blow dryer. And before I take this away, I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit of the water just to help with our drying time. But we still have that beautiful mark making here and that little stain that gives the atmosphere for our feather. All right, so we are going to here, just for the sake of time, I'm going to grab up a little bit of the pigment in the water. I just love that. I don't want to mess with that. And you can just follow me right now with your blow dryer, or you can fast forward this part. It's up to you. Et voila! I think it already looks so beautiful. It's like a little heavenly light. Let's go ahead and do that for our other watercolors so that they're all ready for the next step. Woo! That is hilarious. My feather blew away. It was very feather-like. All right, so here I'm just gonna pick up some of the water. And again, this is more so to help with the drying time. All right, and let's just blow dry our little feather. I'm gonna hold on to it this time. Finally, and you can see how I fluctuate between the high and the low speeds depending on how much water is on the paper and if it's getting a little out of control. All right, so we are ready to paint our feather with Holy Light. And I'm going to start with a larger brush, and I'm going to actually pick up some of the white, which we don't do a lot in watercolor. We usually let the white of the paper speak for itself, but where it's going on top of this divine light, it'll just help with some of the opaque. Just grabbing water I'm going to grab the round brush. And then at the tip of the feather, it's always a little bit darker. Let's blend as much as you would like. And this is our time to just play. And I love how even the splatters kind of mimic the downiness of the feather. Grab some white. And let's go ahead. We have our little plume. And you're looking at the tip of the feather here, where it is thinnest, and how it would follow all the way down. And see, I'm not touching the paper, but I'm going to make it thicker at the bottom and then lift up. And we have our feather. And I feel like this feather wants a companion feather. So I'm going to go ahead and create the little bone structure of the feather, and then just with water, I'm going to kind of work out. So it's fun to paint in the negative, to paint wet on wet. You can kind of play and find like what works best for you and what you enjoy, because it's all about, you know, following your joy and bliss, especially with painting and with everything. All right, and we're going to take our round brush, and sometimes I make sure just to get the excess water off here. Let's define our feather just a little bit more. And again, we're going to look at where the tip is, and we're going to start thicker, lift up, and just follow it as if it went all the way to the top, but we don't want it to be like a straight line. It's much more visually interesting this way. Let's bring just water down here and get some beautiful angelic tufts. All right. And let's let this dry for a minute. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to grab just a little bit of this kind of sienna, and just for visual interest, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of that hue in there. That's really lovely. Pick up a little bit of it. Et voila. All right, so we'll let that dry. For this feather here, we're going to grab our square brush, again the 5/8. I'm just picking up pigment with a lot of water and letting just the brushwork speak for itself, because sometimes that's more lovely than anything we could force or try to do. So just let go, let the watercolor work its magic. And with this one here, I'm going to actually grab my smaller brush. This is my size 3. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the umber too, and then looking where the tip of the feather is, I'm going to create the little plume going up. And a couple of little splatters. But I think that's really sweet, and I love the simplicity of it, so I think I'm going to actually leave this one as is. And it's up to you if you want to continue, to add more plumes and little downiness. So with this piece here, we're going to paint a little bit in the negative. Painting in the negative is when you accentuate by painting around a shape. So where the little vein of the feather is, I'm going to, and see how I'm turning the watercolor? It's very helpful to turn it and just make it ergonomic for you. And then again, painting in the negative. And see how now you see the vein of the feather here, and we did so by like painting around it with a darker hue. That is painting in the negative, and I love painting in the negative. And then here we'll just add like a little bit of water. when you squint your eyes at this, you can see how that's a very stark line. So we're going to add some water, some splatters. And there is our feather. All right, so thus far we have our two little sweet almonds. And then let's finish our larger piece. So grabbing some of the Payne's gray, I'm just going to do just a few quick little brush strokes and some splatters. I'm going to go ahead and scrub a couple of those out. Et voila, we've painted our three feathers. Sending everyone love and light, and I hope you enjoyed this peaceful meditative painting class. Take care.